Long ago, before the great flood that covered the whole earth, there lived beings so strange and so terrible that their story has been told for thousands of years. These were not ordinary people like you and me. They were giants called the Nephilim. Their story is found in an ancient book called the Book of Enoch. This book tells us about angels who came down from heaven, about giant people who were part angel and part human, and about what happened to their spirits when they died. The Book of Enoch is one of the oldest books ever written. It was written long before Jesus was born. Some people say it was written by a man named Enoch who walked with God. The Bible tells us that Enoch was so good that God took him up to heaven without him having to die first. This makes the Book of Enoch very special because it might have been written by someone who actually saw heaven. Today, we are going to learn about one of the most amazing and scary stories from this ancient book. It is the story of the Watchers, the Nephilim Giants, and what happened to their spirits after the Great Flood. This story will help us understand why there was so much evil in the world before the flood, and why God had to wash the earth clean with water. The story begins in heaven, where angels lived with God. These angels were called Watchers because their job was to watch over the earth and the people who lived on it. But some of these Watchers made a very bad choice. They decided to leave heaven and come down to earth. When they did this, everything changed. The world became a place full of giants and evil things that should never have been. But this is not just a story from long ago. Many people believe that the spirits of these giants are still around today. They think these spirits are what we call demons. If this is true, then learning about the Nephilim can help us understand things that happen in our world right now. The Watchers come down from heaven. In the beginning, God made angels to serve him in heaven. Some of these angels had a special job. They were called Watchers because they watched over the earth and all the people on it. The Book of Enoch tells us that there were many Watchers, but it gives us the names of some of the most important ones. The leader of the Watchers who came down was named Semjaza. He was very powerful, and many other Watchers followed him. There was also Azazel, who taught people how to make weapons and war. There was Gadriel, who taught people about killing. There was Penamu, who taught people how to write with bitter ink. There was Kazdeja, who taught people about evil spirits and how demons could live inside people. The Book of Enoch says there were 200 Watchers who decided to leave heaven. This was not a small group. It was like a whole army of angels coming down from heaven to earth. But why did they do this? The book tells us that they saw the daughters of men and thought they were beautiful. They wanted to marry these women and have children with them. Now, this might not sound so bad to us. We might think, what is wrong with angels wanting to get married? But God had made angels and humans very different. Angels were meant to stay in heaven and serve God. Humans were meant to live on earth. When the Watchers decided to leave heaven and marry human women, they were going against God's plan. The Watchers knew this was wrong, but they did it anyway. The Book of Enoch tells us that Semjaza was worried. He thought maybe the other Watchers would change their minds, and he would be the only one in trouble. So he made all 200 Watchers promise, with an oath, that they would all do this together. They all promised, and they all came down to earth at the same time. They came down on a mountain called Mount Hermon. This mountain is real and you can still visit it today. It is on the border between Israel and Lebanon. The name Hermon means destruction. Maybe this mountain got its name because of what the Watchers did there. When they came down on this mountain, they changed everything. Nothing would ever be the same again. The Watchers took human women as their wives, but because the Watchers were angels and the women were humans, their children were not normal. These children grew up to be giants. They were much bigger and stronger than normal people. They were called the Nephilim, which means the fallen ones. They were called this because they came from the fallen angels, the Watchers who had fallen from heaven. The birth of the giants. When the Watchers married human women, something amazing and terrible happened. The women became pregnant and gave birth to children who were not like any children the world had ever seen before. These children grew very fast and became very big. They were giants. The Book of Enoch tells us that these giants were huge. Some of them grew to be 300 cubits tall. A cubit is about 18 inches, so 300 cubits would be about 450 feet tall. That is taller than most buildings today. Even the smallest of the giants were much bigger than normal people. But it was not just their size that made the Nephilim different. They were also much stronger than normal people. They could do things that no human could do. They could pick up huge rocks and throw them like small stones. They could fight many people at once and win. They were like superheroes, but evil ones. The giants were also very smart, but they used their intelligence for bad things. Their fathers, the Watchers, taught them secrets that humans were not supposed to know. They learned about making weapons and about war. They learned about magic and how to talk to evil spirits. They learned about the stars and planets. But they used this knowledge to tell the future and to control people. As the giants grew up, they became hungry for power. They wanted to rule over all the normal humans. And because they were so big and strong, the humans could not stop them. The giants took whatever they wanted. They took people's food, their animals, their houses, and even their children. But the worst thing about the giants was that they had very big appetites. They ate huge amounts of food. The Book of Enoch tells us that all the food that humans could make was not enough for the giants. When the giants had eaten all the food, they started eating the animals. When they had eaten all the animals, they started eating people. Yes, the giants became cannibals. They ate human beings. This was something so terrible that it had never happened before in the world. The giants also drank the blood of people and animals. They turned the earth into a place of horror and fear. The giants also fought each other. They had wars between themselves that were terrible to see. When giants fight, everything around them gets destroyed. Cities were destroyed. Forests were burned down, and rivers were changed. The earth itself was hurt by the fighting of the giants. During this time, normal humans lived in great fear. They could not fight against the giants. They could not hide from them. Many humans became slaves of the giants. Others ran away to live in caves and wild places. The world became a place where might made right, and the giants had all the might. The evil teachings of the Watchers. The Watchers did not just have giant children. They also taught humans many things that God did not want them to know. These teachings made the world even more evil and dangerous than it already was. Azazel was one of the most evil Watchers. He taught humans how to make weapons of war. Before this, people did not know how to make swords and spears and shields. They lived in peace with each other most of the time. But Azazel showed them how to make metal weapons that could kill many people quickly. He also taught them how to make armor to protect themselves in war. But Azazel did not just teach about weapons. He also taught women how to make themselves beautiful in ways that were not good. He showed them how to paint their eyes and faces. He taught them how to make jewelry and how to color their hair. Now, making yourself look nice is not always bad, but Azazel taught these things so that women would use their beauty to make men do wrong things. Another watcher named Gadriel taught humans about killing in secret. He showed them how to make poison and how to use it to kill people without anyone knowing. He taught them how to kill quietly and how to hide the bodies. Before this, if someone was angry enough to kill another person, everyone would know about it. But Gadriel made it possible for people to kill in secret. Penemu taught humans how to write, but not in a good way. The Book of Enoch calls it writing with bitter ink. This might mean that he taught people how to write curses and evil spells. Or it might mean that he taught them how to write lies and things that would hurt other people. Writing can be used for good things, like writing down God's words or writing letters to people you love. But Penemu taught writing that brought bitterness and pain. Castaja taught humans about evil spirits and demons. He showed them how demons could come inside people and control them. He taught them rituals and ceremonies that would call demons to come. This was very dangerous knowledge, because once people started calling demons, the demons would not leave them alone. Other watchers taught about magic and sorcery. They showed humans how to read signs in the sky and how to tell the future by looking at the stars. They taught about making potions and casting spells. They taught humans how to talk to the spirits of dead people. All of these teachings had one thing in common. They gave humans power, but it was the wrong kind of power. It was power that came from rebellion against God. It was power that hurt other people. It was power that made people think they could be like God themselves. Before the Watchers came down, humans lived simple lives. They grew food, took care of animals, and had families. They worshipped God and tried to live good lives. But after the Watchers taught them all these evil things, humans became violent and greedy and full of pride. The world became a place where people used magic instead of trusting God. It became a place where people made weapons to hurt each other instead of tools to help each other. It became a place where people lied and cheated and killed to get what they wanted. The world becomes full of violence. As the giants grew in number and the evil teachings of the Watchers spread, the whole world changed. What had once been a beautiful place where people could live in peace became a place of terrible violence and fear. The Bible tells us that in those days, the earth was filled with violence. Every thought that people had was evil all the time. This was not just because of the giants, but also because normal humans had learned evil ways from the Watchers and had become evil themselves. The giants ruled over humans like cruel kings. They took whatever they wanted and killed anyone who tried to stop them. They built great cities where they lived like gods, making humans serve them and worship them. In these cities, terrible things happened every day. People were killed for fun. Women and children were taken as slaves. and the blood of innocent people was spilled like water. But the giants were not content to just rule over humans. They also started to corrupt the animals. The Book of Enoch tells us that the giants taught animals to fight each other. They mixed different kinds of animals together to create new creatures that were not natural. They made animals that were part lion and part eagle, or part horse and part man. These mixed creatures were called chimeras. They were not made by God, so they were not good. Many of them were dangerous and attacked people and other animals. The world became full of monsters that should never have existed. The giants also corrupted the plants. They changed the way plants grew and made new kinds of plants that were poisonous. They created plants that could be used to make people sick or to kill them. The whole natural world was being changed and corrupted. During this time, there were very few people left who still loved God and tried to live good lives. Most humans had either been killed by the giants or had become evil themselves. The world that God had made and called good had become a place of horror. The Book of Enoch tells us that the blood of all the people and animals that were killed cried out to God from the ground. The earth itself was in pain because of all the evil that was happening on it. The sun and moon and stars looked down and saw the terrible things that were happening, and they also cried out to God for help. Even the air became polluted with evil. The spirits of the dead giants, which we will learn more about later, filled the air with wickedness. Demons walked openly on the earth. Evil was everywhere, and good was almost gone completely. The Watchers, who had started all this trouble, were proud of what they had done. They thought they had created a new world where they could be like gods. But they did not know that God in heaven was watching everything they did, and he was planning to put an end to their evil kingdom. God sees the evil and makes a plan. While all this evil was happening on earth, God in heaven was not ignoring it. The Book of Enoch tells us that 4 archangels came before God to report what was happening. Their names were Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. These were good angels who had stayed in heaven and continued to serve God faithfully. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel told God about all the terrible things that were happening on earth. They told him about the Watchers who had left heaven and married human women. They told him about the giants who were eating people and drinking blood. They told him about all the evil teachings that were spreading across the world. The archangels asked God to do something to stop the evil. They said that the earth was crying out for help and that soon there would be no good people left alive. They asked God to punish the Watchers and the giants and to save the few good people who were still trying to live right. God listened to the archangels, and he was angry about what was happening on earth. But God is not just angry when he sees evil. He is also sad. The Book of Enoch tells us that God was sorry that he had made humans because they had become so evil. But God still loved the good people, and he wanted to save them. So God made a plan. It was a plan that would punish the evil ones and save the good ones. It was a plan that would clean the earth and make it possible for good people to live on it again. This plan had several parts, and each of the archangels had a job to do. First, God told Uriel to go and warn a good man named Noah. Noah was one of the few people left on earth who still loved God and tried to live a good life. God told Uriel to warn Noah that a great flood was coming that would cover the whole earth. He told Noah to build a big boat called an ark and to put his family and 2 of every kind of animal into the ark, so they would be saved when the flood came. Second, God told Raphael to bind up Azazel, the watcher who had taught humans how to make weapons and war. Raphael was to tie up Azazel and throw him into a dark pit in the desert. There Azazel would stay until the day of judgment, when God would punish him forever. Third, God told Gabriel to destroy the giants. Gabriel was to make the giants fight each other until they were all dead. Since the giants loved violence and war, God would use their own evil nature to destroy them. Fourth, God told Michael to bind up Semjaza and all the other watchers. They would be imprisoned in dark places under the earth until the day of judgment. They would not be able to see the sun or the sky anymore. They would be prisoners in darkness forever. This plan would not happen all at once. It would take time for each part of the plan to work. But God knew that his plan would succeed, and that the evil that filled the earth would be washed away by the great flood. The punishment of the watchers. When God gave the archangels their jobs, they went to work right away. The punishment of the watchers and giants began, and it was terrible to see. Raphael went first to find Azazel. Azazel thought he was safe because he was so powerful and had taught humans so many evil things. But when Raphael came for him, Azazel could not fight back. Raphael was acting with God's power, and no fallen angel could stand against that. Raphael grabbed Azazel and tied him up with chains that could not be broken. Then he carried Azazel to a place in the desert called Dudael. This was a terrible place with sharp rocks and no water. Raphael dug a deep pit in the hardest rock and threw Azazel into it. Then he covered the pit with more rocks so that Azazel could not get out. In this dark pit, Azazel could not see the sun or the moon or the stars. He could not feel the wind or see any living thing. He was completely alone in the darkness. The Book of Enoch says that Azazel will stay in this pit until the day of judgment, when God will throw him into the fire forever. While Raphael was dealing with Azazel, Gabriel went to work on the giants. Gabriel had the power to make the giants fight each other, and this is exactly what happened. The giants, who had been working together to rule the earth, suddenly started to hate each other. The giants began to have wars between themselves. These were not small fights. When giants fight, everything around them is destroyed. Whole cities were smashed to pieces. Mountains were broken apart. Rivers were changed from their courses. The earth shook like an earthquake every time the giants fought. The giant wars went on for years. Groups of giants would fight other groups of giants. Sometimes one giant would fight against many others. Sometimes giants would fight alone against alone. But no matter how they fought, they kept killing each other until fewer and fewer giants were left alive. The few humans who were still alive watched these giant wars from far away. They were happy to see the giants destroying each other, but they were also afraid because the fighting was so terrible that it hurt the whole earth. Michael had the hardest job of all. He had to capture Semjaza and all the other watchers who had come down from heaven. There were almost 200 of them, and they were all very powerful. But Michael was an archangel, and God had given him special power to do this job. One by one, Michael hunted down the watchers. Some of them tried to hide, but Michael could find them anywhere. Some of them tried to fight, but they could not win against Michael. Some of them tried to run away, but Michael was faster than they were. When Michael caught each watcher, he tied them up with chains made in heaven. These chains were stronger than any metal on earth. No matter how hard the watchers pulled, they could not break free. Michael took the watchers to places deep under the ground. There were caves and pits in the earth that went down so far that no light could reach them. Michael put each watcher in one of these dark places and left them there. The Book of Enoch says they will stay there until the day of judgment. Semjaza, the leader of the watchers, was put in the deepest and darkest place of all. He had been the one who convinced all the others to rebel against God, so his punishment was the worst. He was chained up in a place where he could not move at all, and where the darkness was so thick it was like a heavy blanket pressing down on him. While all this was happening, Uriel went to find Noah. Noah was living with his family and trying to stay away from all the violence and evil in the world. When Uriel came to him, Noah was afraid at first because he had never seen an angel before. But Uriel told Noah not to be afraid. He told Noah that God had seen his goodness and wanted to save him and his family. Uriel explained about the flood that was coming and told Noah exactly how to build the ark that would keep them safe. Noah listened carefully to everything Uriel told him. Then he started working on the ark right away. It took him many years to build it, and while he was building, he told other people about the flood that was coming. But most people did not believe him. They thought Noah was crazy. The great flood comes. While Noah was building the ark and the archangels were punishing the watchers and giants, God was getting ready to send the great flood. This flood would not be like any rainstorm that had ever happened before. It would be big enough to cover the whole earth, even the highest mountains. The Book of Enoch tells us that when the time was right, God opened the windows of heaven and let all the water that was stored up there come pouring down. At the same time, he broke open the fountains of the great deep, and water came shooting up from under the ground. Water came from everywhere all at once. It rained harder than it had ever rained before. The rain did not stop for 40 days and 40 nights. But even before the 40 days were over, there was so much water that it covered all the land. When the flood started, people finally realized that Noah had been telling the truth. They ran to the ark and begged Noah to let them in, but it was too late. God himself had shut the door of the ark, and no one could open it. The water rose higher and higher. First it covered the houses where people lived. Then it covered the hills. Then it covered the mountains. Soon there was nothing but water everywhere as far as anyone could see. All the people who had not gotten into the ark died in the flood. All the animals that had not gotten into the ark died too. Most importantly for our story, all the giants died in the flood. Now, you might think that the giants could have survived the flood because they were so big and strong. But the Book of Enoch makes it clear that even the giants could not survive being underwater for so long. The water covered even the highest mountains, so there was no place for the giants to go where they could breathe air. The giants tried to save themselves. Some of them tried to build boats, but they did not know how to build them properly. Some of them tried to swim, but even giants cannot swim forever. Some of them tried to climb to the tops of mountains, but the water rose higher than the mountains. One by one, all the giants drowned in the flood. The last giant to die was probably the biggest and strongest one, but even he could not fight against the water that God had sent. When the last giant died, it seemed like the problem of the Nephilim was over forever. The flood washed away all the evil cities that the giants had built. It washed away all the weapons that Azazel had taught people to make. It washed away all the corrupted animals and plants. It washed the earth clean of all the evil that had filled it. After the water had been on the earth for many months, God made it start to go down. The rain stopped falling. The fountains under the ground stopped shooting up water. Slowly, the water got lower and lower until finally the land was dry again. Noah and his family came out of the ark onto a clean earth. All the evil people were gone. All the giants were gone. All the corrupted creatures were gone. It seemed like God had solved the problem completely. The spirits of the giants. But there was something that the flood could not wash away. When the giants died, their bodies were destroyed, but their spirits did not die. This is where our story becomes very important for understanding what the Book of Enoch teaches about what happened after the giants died. The Book of Enoch explains that the giants were different from normal people because they had angel fathers and human mothers. When normal people die, their spirits go to a place where they wait for the judgment day. But the spirits of the giants could not go to this place because they were not completely human. The spirits of the giants also could not go back to heaven because they were not completely angels. They were stuck in between. They had no place to go, so they stayed on earth as spirits without bodies. These spirits of the dead giants are what we call demons or evil spirits. The Book of Enoch says that they wander around the earth looking for bodies to live in. They try to get inside people and animals and control them. They cause sickness and madness and evil behavior. This is why there are still evil spirits in the world today, even though the flood washed away all the evil people and giants. The demons are the spirits of the giants who died in the flood, and they are still causing trouble for people. The Book of Enoch tells us that these evil spirits are very hungry and thirsty, but they cannot eat or drink because they do not have bodies. This makes them angry and jealous of people who do have bodies. So they try to steal people's bodies by getting inside them. When an evil spirit gets inside a person, that person starts to act in bad ways. They might become violent or crazy or sick. They might start doing things they never wanted to do before. This is because the evil spirit is controlling them from inside. The evil spirits also remember all the bad things their fathers, the Watchers, taught people before the flood. So they try to teach these same bad things to people today. They teach people about magic and violence and how to hurt each other. They try to make the world evil again, like it was before the flood. But the evil spirits are not as powerful as their giant bodies were. They cannot pick up big rocks or destroy cities by themselves. They can only work through the people and animals they get inside of. This is why they are always looking for someone to control. The Book of Enoch says that God allows these evil spirits to stay on earth for now, but He has limited their power. They cannot force people to let them in. People have to choose to listen to them and obey them. If people choose to follow God instead, the evil spirits cannot control them. The evil spirits will be allowed to cause trouble on earth until the day of judgment. On that day, God will gather up all the evil spirits and throw them into the fire forever, just like He will do with their fathers, the Watchers. How the evil spirits work today. Now that we understand what the evil spirits are and where they came from, let us learn about how they work in the world today. The Book of Enoch and other ancient writings tell us many things about how these spirits of the dead giants cause problems for people. First, the evil spirits try to get inside people's bodies. When they succeed in doing this, it is called demon possession. A person who has an evil spirit inside them might act very strangely. They might become very strong, stronger than they should be. They might know things they should not know. They might speak in voices that do not sound like their own voice. Sometimes a person with an evil spirit inside them will hurt themselves or try to hurt other people. The evil spirit makes them do these things because the spirit remembers how violent the giants were before the flood. The spirit wants to cause the same kind of violence and pain that the giants caused. But evil spirits do not always take complete control of a person. Sometimes they just influence people to make bad choices. They whisper bad ideas into people's minds. They make people feel angry or jealous or greedy. They encourage people to lie, cheat, steal, and hurt each other. The evil spirits especially like to influence people who are in positions of power. They want to control kings and presidents and other leaders because then they can cause problems for many people at once. When evil spirits influence leaders, those leaders might start wars or make laws that hurt people or do other things that cause suffering. Evil spirits also like to influence people who teach others. They want to control teachers and preachers and writers because then they can spread false ideas to many people. Just like their fathers, the Watchers taught people evil things before the flood, the evil spirits want to teach people evil things today. Some of the evil things that evil spirits try to teach people are the same things the Watchers taught before the flood. They teach people about magic and trying to talk to dead people. They teach people about violence and how to hurt each other. They teach people to worship things instead of worshiping God. Evil spirits also cause sickness and disease. Because they are jealous of people who have healthy bodies, they try to make people sick. They can cause mental illness that makes people think crazy thoughts. They can cause physical illness that makes people's bodies not work right. The evil spirits work together sometimes. The Book of Enoch suggests that they have leaders, just like the giants had leaders when they were alive. These leader spirits organize the other spirits and give them jobs to do. Some spirits might be sent to cause problems in one place, while other spirits are sent to cause problems somewhere else. But even though the evil spirits can cause many problems, they are not as powerful as God. God is much stronger than all the evil spirits put together. God protects people who love Him and ask for His help. The evil spirits cannot control people who truly follow God. The names and jobs of evil spirits. The Book of Enoch gives us the names of many of the Watchers who became the fathers of the giants. It also tells us what evil things each Watcher taught people. This helps us understand what their children, the giants, were like. And it helps us understand what the spirits of these giants might be trying to do today. We already learned about Azazel, who taught people how to make weapons and war. The spirit of Azazel's giant children probably try to make people violent and angry today. They might influence people to fight with each other, to start wars, or to hurt people with weapons. Gadriel taught people how to kill in secret and how to use poison. The spirits from Gadriel's giant children might try to make people sneaky and dishonest today. They might influence people to lie, to cheat, or to hurt people in ways that no one will know about. Penemu taught people how to write with bitter ink. The spirits from his giant children might try to influence people who write books, or make movies, or create things that other people will read or watch. They want to fill these things with ideas that will hurt people or lead them away from God. Castaja taught people about evil spirits and how demons could live inside people. The spirits from his giant children probably try to teach people about magic and talking to spirits today. They want people to think that magic is good and that talking to dead people is safe. There was a watcher named Kokabel who taught people about astrology and reading signs in the sky. The spirits from his giant children might try to make people believe that the stars control their lives instead of God. They want people to make decisions based on horoscopes instead of on what God says is right. Another watcher named Chazakiel taught people about clouds and weather. The spirits from his giant children might try to make people worship nature instead of the God who made nature. They want people to think that the earth itself is God. Barakel taught people about lightning. Bezaliel taught people about astrology. Arakiel taught people about signs. Each of these watchers taught people something that took their attention away from God and made them think they could control their own lives through knowledge or magic. The spirits of all these giants are still trying to teach the same kinds of things today. They want people to believe that they can be like God if they just have enough knowledge or power. This is the same lie that the Watchers believed when they decided to leave heaven. But the Book of Enoch makes it clear that all this knowledge and power that the Watchers taught was not good for people. It made people violent and evil. It led to the giants eating people and the earth being filled with violence. In the end, it led to God having to destroy the world with a flood. The evil spirits want to make the world like it was before the flood again. They want people to become so evil that God will have to destroy the world again. But God has promised that He will never destroy the world with a flood again. Next time, He will destroy evil with fire. Fighting against evil spirits. Even though evil spirits are real and they do cause problems in the world, people do not have to be afraid of them. The Book of Enoch and the Bible both teach us that God is much more powerful than any evil spirit. God gives people ways to protect themselves from evil spirits and to fight against them. The most important thing people can do to protect themselves from evil spirits is to love God and obey His commands. Evil spirits cannot force their way into people who truly belong to God. They can only influence people who choose to listen to them and follow their suggestions. When people pray to God, He protects them from evil spirits. Prayer is like putting on armor that evil spirits cannot break through. When people read God's word in the Bible, it gives them wisdom to recognize when evil spirits are trying to influence them. People should also stay away from things that evil spirits use to influence people. They should not try to do magic or talk to spirits or dead people. They should not read horoscopes or try to tell the future using cards or other methods. These things open doors that let evil spirits come into people's lives. If someone thinks they might have an evil spirit bothering them, they should ask other people who love God to pray for them. The Bible tells us that some evil spirits can only be driven away by prayer and fasting. When good people work together to pray against evil spirits, God gives them power to make the spirits go away. People should also be careful about what they watch on television, or read in books, or listen to in music. Evil spirits can use these things to put bad ideas into people's minds. If something makes people feel angry or scared or want to do bad things, they should stop watching or reading or listening to it. It is also important for people to stay around other people who love God. When people who love God spend time together, it makes it harder for evil spirits to influence any of them. Evil spirits like to attack people when they are alone, but they have a harder time when good people stick together. People should not be afraid of evil spirits, but they should respect how dangerous they can be. Evil spirits have been causing trouble for thousands of years, and they are very good at tricking people. But God is even better at protecting people who trust in Him. The Book of Enoch tells us that someday God will gather up all the evil spirits and put them in prison forever. Until that day comes, people need to be wise and careful, but they do not need to be afraid because God is always stronger than evil. Other giants. After the flood. Now, you might be wondering about something. If all the giants died in the flood, why does the Bible talk about giants living after the flood? The Bible tells us about giants like Goliath, who fought against David. It tells us about a king named Og, whose bed was 13 feet long. It tells us about a race of giants called the Anakim, who lived in the land that God promised to give to the Israelites. This is a good question, and different people have different ideas about the answer. Some people think that there were more watchers who came down to earth after the flood and had giant children again. But most people who study the Book of Enoch think this is not what happened. The Book of Enoch suggests that all the watchers who were going to rebel against God did it at the same time, before the flood. The archangel Michael bound up all of these rebellious watchers and put them in prison under the earth. So there were no more watchers left to come down and have giant children after the flood. So where did the giants after the flood come from? The most likely answer is that they came from normal human families, but these families had some of the giant blood in them from before the flood. Remember that the watchers did not only have children with one woman each, they had children with many women. Some of these women might have had normal human children too, not just giant children. If a woman had both giant children and normal children, then her normal children would carry some giant blood in them, even though they looked normal. Most of the time, this giant blood would not show up. But sometimes, many years later, a child might be born who was bigger and stronger than normal people because of this old giant blood. This would explain why there were still some giants after the flood, but not very many of them. It would also explain why these later giants were not as big or as evil as the giants before the flood. They did not have watcher fathers who taught them evil things. They were just people who happened to be very big and strong. Another possibility is that the later giants were normal people who were influenced by the evil spirits of the original giants. Maybe the evil spirits taught these people some of the same things that the watchers had taught before the flood. This could have made them bigger and stronger than normal, even though they did not have watcher fathers. But even if there were some giants after the flood, they were never as many or as powerful as the giants before the flood. God had made sure that the worst of the giant problem was solved by the flood. The giants that came later were just small reminders of what had happened before. The important thing to remember is that all giants, whether they lived before the flood or after the flood, were enemies of God's people. God told the Israelites to fight against the giants and drive them out of the promised land. This was not because God hated the giants as people, but because the giants represented the same kind of rebellion against God that had led to the flood in the first place. Signs of the end times. The Book of Enoch does not just tell us about things that happened in the past. It also tells us about things that will happen in the future. According to this ancient book, the story of the Watchers and the giants is not completely finished. There will be more to this story before the end of the world. The book suggests that in the last days before God judges the world again, things will become like they were before the flood. Evil will increase in the world. People will become violent and selfish. They will turn away from God and try to become like gods themselves. During this time, the evil spirits of the giants will become more active. They will work harder to influence people and to spread evil throughout the world. They know that their time is running short, so they will try to cause as much trouble as they can before God stops them forever. Some people think that in the last days, there might even be new giants born on the earth. They think that somehow the evil spirits will find a way to create new bodies for themselves, or that they will influence people to create artificial giants using technology. Whether or not there will be actual giants in the last days, the Book of Enoch makes it clear that the influence of the evil spirits will be very strong. People will be deceived into thinking that they can solve all their problems without God's help. They will trust in their own knowledge and power instead of trusting in God. This is exactly what happened before the flood. People learned things from the Watchers that made them think they were very smart and powerful. But all their knowledge and power could not save them when God sent the flood. The Book of Enoch warns us that the same thing will happen again. People will think they are very advanced and intelligent. They will think they have solved all the problems in the world. But they will be deceived by the evil spirits, just like people were deceived by the Watchers before the flood. When things become very bad, just like they were before the flood, then God will judge the world again. But this time, it will not be with water. The Bible tells us that next time God will judge the world with fire. Everything evil will be burned up and destroyed forever. The Book of Enoch tells us that when this final judgment comes, God will finally deal with the Watchers and the evil spirits once and for all. The Watchers, who have been imprisoned under the earth, will be brought out and thrown into the lake of fire. The evil spirits, who have been wandering around the earth, will also be gathered up and thrown into the fire. After this final judgment, there will be no more evil in the world. There will be no more giants, no more evil spirits, no more violence or pain. God will make a new earth where only good people will live, and they will live there happily forever. Lessons for us today. The story of the Watchers, the giants, and their spirits teaches us many important lessons that we can use in our lives today. Even though these things happened a long time ago, they help us understand what is happening in our world right now. First, this story teaches us that evil is real. There really are evil spirits in the world who want to hurt people and lead them away from God. We should not pretend that evil does not exist or that it is not dangerous. The evil spirits of the giants are still active today, and they are still trying to cause the same kinds of problems that the giants caused before the flood. Second, this story teaches us that we need to be careful about what we learn and who we learn it from. The Watchers taught people many things that seemed useful and interesting, but these teachings led to violence and evil. Today, there are still people and ideas that seem smart and helpful, but they might actually be influenced by evil spirits. We should always check what we learn against what God says in the Bible. If something teaches us to be proud or violent, or to disobey God, then it is probably not good for us to learn, even if it seems very interesting. Third, this story teaches us that God is always in control, even when evil seems very powerful. Before the flood, it seemed like the giants and the Watchers had taken over the world completely. But God was able to destroy all of them and save the good people. No matter how bad things get in our world, God is still more powerful than all the evil forces put together. Fourth, this story teaches us that our choices matter. The Watchers chose to rebel against God, and this led to terrible consequences. The humans who followed the Watchers' teachings chose to do evil things, and they were destroyed in the flood. But Noah chose to follow God, and he and his family were saved. We make choices every day about whether we will follow God or follow evil influences. These choices might seem small, but they are actually very important. Each time we choose to do what is right, we are choosing to be on God's side instead of on the side of the evil spirits. Fifth, this story teaches us that God cares about justice. When God saw all the evil that was happening on earth, he did not ignore it. He made a plan to punish the evil ones and save the good ones. This shows us that God cares when people are hurt by evil, and he will always make sure that justice is done in the end. Sixth, this story teaches us to be humble. The Watchers got in trouble because they were proud and thought they could do whatever they wanted. The giants were destroyed because they thought they were so powerful that no one could stop them. Pride and thinking we are better than others leads to trouble. We should always remember that we need God's help and protection. We are not strong enough or smart enough to fight against evil by ourselves. But when we ask God for help and trust in him, he gives us everything we need to live good lives and resist evil influences. The final judgment. The Book of Enoch spends a lot of time talking about the final judgment that will come at the end of the world. This judgment will be different from the flood because it will not just punish evil people on earth. It will also punish the Watchers and the evil spirits who have been causing trouble for thousands of years. According to the Book of Enoch, there will come a day when God will open up the prisons where the Watchers have been kept. But he will not let them go free. Instead, he will bring them out to be judged for all the evil they caused. Each Watcher will have to answer for what he taught people and for the evil that his giant children did. Azazel will have to answer for all the weapons and wars that came from his teachings. Gadriel will have to answer for all the secret murders and poisonings. All the other Watchers will have to answer for their part in corrupting the world. The Book of Enoch says that the Watchers will try to make excuses for what they did. They will say that they were just trying to help people by teaching them new things. They will say that they did not know their children would become so evil. But God will not accept their excuses because he knows that they knew what they were doing was wrong. After the Watchers are judged, they will be thrown into a lake of fire where they will be punished forever. This fire will never go out, and they will never be able to escape from it. This will be their punishment for rebelling against God and causing so much evil in the world. The evil spirits of the giants will also be gathered up for judgment. For thousands of years, they have been wandering around the earth causing trouble for people. They have made people sick, influenced them to do evil things, and tried to turn them away from God. Now, they will finally have to pay for all the evil they have done. The Book of Enoch suggests that the evil spirits know this judgment is coming, and they are afraid of it. This is why they work so hard to cause as much trouble as they can while they still have time. They know that once the judgment comes, they will never be able to hurt anyone again. But the final judgment will not only punish evil, it will also reward good. All the people who have loved God and tried to live good lives will be brought to live with God forever in a place where there is no pain or sadness or death. The Book of Enoch says that these good people will be given new bodies that will never get sick or grow old or die. They will live in a beautiful place where everything is perfect. They will be able to see God face to face and talk with Him whenever they want. In this new place, there will be no evil spirits to cause trouble. There will be no violence or war or hatred. Everyone will love each other and live together in peace. It will be like the world was supposed to be before the Watchers came down and corrupted everything. The final judgment will be the end of the long story that started when the Watchers first decided to rebel against God. It will be the time when God finally fixes everything that went wrong and makes the world perfect again. Why this story matters. Some people might wonder why we should care about this old story from the Book of Enoch. They might think that it is just an interesting tale from ancient times that does not have anything to do with us today. But this story is actually very important for understanding our world and our lives. This story helps explain why there is so much evil in the world. It shows us that evil did not just happen by accident. It came into the world because spiritual beings made bad choices and influenced people to make bad choices too. Understanding this helps us realize that the problems in our world are not just political or social problems. They are spiritual problems that need spiritual solutions. This story also helps us understand why people have always been interested in things like magic and talking to spirits and trying to control supernatural forces. The desire for this kind of knowledge and power goes back to what the Watchers taught people before the flood. The evil spirits are still trying to teach people the same things today. When we understand this, we can be more careful about what we get involved in. We can recognize when something might be influenced by evil spirits, even if it seems harmless or interesting. We can make better choices about what books to read, what movies to watch, and what activities to participate in. This story also helps us understand why the world sometimes seems to be getting more evil instead of better. Even though people have more education and technology than ever before, there is still a lot of violence and hatred and selfishness in the world. This is because the real problem is not lack of education or technology. The real problem is spiritual evil that can only be solved by God's power. Understanding this story can give us hope when things seem very bad in the world. We can remember that God was able to deal with the evil of the giants and the Watchers. and He will be able to deal with the evil in our world too. No matter how powerful evil seems to be, God is always more powerful. This story also teaches us about the importance of the choices we make. Every day, we have opportunities to choose between following God or following evil influences. These choices might seem small, but they are actually part of a much bigger story that has been going on for thousands of years. When we choose to do what is right, we are joining the side of the good angels like Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. When we choose to do what is wrong, we are being influenced by the evil spirits of the giants. Understanding this can help us take our choices more seriously and think more carefully about the kind of people we want to be. Finally, this story reminds us that this life is not all there is. There will be a final judgment when all evil will be punished and all good will be rewarded. This can help us be patient when evil people seem to be getting away with bad things, and it can encourage us to keep doing good, even when it is difficult. Conclusion: the story of the Watchers, the giants, and their spirits is one of the most amazing and important stories ever told. It helps us understand where evil came from, why the world is the way it is, and what will happen in the future. We have learned about the 200 Watchers who left heaven to marry human women. We have learned about their giant children who filled the earth with violence and evil. We have learned about how God punished the Watchers and destroyed the giants with a great flood. Most importantly, we have learned about what happened to the spirits of the giants after they died. These spirits became the demons that still cause trouble in the world today. They are the evil forces that try to influence people to do wrong things and turn away from God. But we have also learned that God is more powerful than all these evil forces. He protected Noah and his family from the flood. He sent his archangels to punish the Watchers and bind them in prison. He gives people today the power to resist evil spirits and live good lives. The story is not over yet. The evil spirits are still active in the world, and they will continue to cause trouble until the final judgment comes. But when that day arrives, God will gather up all the evil forces and destroy them forever. Then He will make a new world where only good will exist. Until that day comes, we need to be wise and careful. We need to stay close to God and ask for His protection from evil influences. We need to make good choices and help other people make good choices too. We need to remember that even though evil is real and powerful, God is always more powerful than evil. The Book of Enoch teaches us that we are part of a great cosmic battle between good and evil that has been going on for thousands of years. The choices we make every day determine which side we are on in this battle. By choosing to follow God and resist evil, we can be part of God's victory over all the forces of darkness. This ancient story still speaks to us today because the same spiritual forces that were active then are still active now. The same God who saved Noah from the flood is still saving people today. The same evil spirits that came from the giants are still trying to deceive people today, and the same final judgment that will punish all evil is still coming in the future. By understanding this story, we can better understand our world, our lives, and our destiny. We can live with courage because we know that God is in control. We can live with purpose because we know that our choices matter. And we can live with hope because we know that in the end, good will triumph over evil, and all who follow God will live with him forever in perfect peace and happiness. The story of the Nephilim Giants and their spirits after death reminds us that there is much more to reality than what we can see with our eyes. There are spiritual forces at work in the world, both good and evil. But the most important truth of all is that the God who created everything is still in charge of everything, and his love and power are greater than all the forces of darkness combined.